I spent the week trying to learn Unreal Engine 5, and boy oh boy, it wasn't that bad actually. Hi, my name's Dan, and I want to be a video game developer. I recently graduated with a first class computer science degree, and I want to use that knowledge to make video games. I fell in love with the process of making video games after working on an indie MMO and making my own video game for my dissertation. So from now, every week or so, I'm challenging myself to learn or create something related to video games, and I'm documenting my process with these videos. If you want to follow my journey, or you like what you see, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a video. The first thing I did was load up a third person template just to sort of get a feel of how Unreal Editor works. I'm much more used to Unity and 2D development, never mind 3D. So I just loaded up the third person template, put some little white blocks down, tried to move around, see how it felt. Yeah, very simple. Just wanted to get a lay of the land, see what was going on. I'm using the GameDev.tv tutorials. I've used them in the past when I've got stuck on anything. I feel as though I'm a pretty proficient coder, so I'm not really using this tutorial to kind of teach me coding. I'm using it more just to kind of teach me how Unreal works. So the next thing I did was test the physics engine of Unreal. So I tied spawnable objects to a button press and just spawned a bunch of balls just to sort of see how the physics worked. Also attached the material to the balls, so it's not the standard white and it kind of pops against the background a little bit. Not much coding going on at this stage, just again trying to get a feel for the Unreal Editor itself. I did put my very limited 3D level creating skills to the test, just by making a very basic square box room. The main purpose of this was to just build a room to fire projectiles at some physics objects like barrels and this rack thing. This did cause a glitch because the rack and the shelf are separate entities, so when you bind them together it creates this weird hurricane effect, which I wasn't expecting, but I thought it was funny. The final result of this was this fun little destruction room. So we've got some barrels on the shelf and some freestanding barrels stacked on top of each other, and then with the blueprints we can fire projectiles with it and knock the barrels over. The 3D meshes for the barrels did have to be edited slightly because it didn't like them being stacked on top of things, and the force of the projectiles as well as the weight of the items all had to be adjusted, just to make sure that we could knock the things over. Originally it was too rigid and they would just sort of tank each hit and wouldn't fall as expected. I spent way too long trying to knock this thing over, it was doing my head in. But I did manage eventually, and there we go, fell over. Room destroyed. So day 2 and 3, not really much happened on day 2. I had some other projects that I needed to get finished. I started a new project using some free assets on the Unreal store. This is just like a basic like platformer, almost like a Fall Guys type deal. The primary focus of that day's challenge was to get a better understanding of some of the syntax that's going to be required for C++ interacting with Unreal. So for the sake of this, what we're doing is moving a block that is spawned elsewhere in the world and then moving it in front of the player when the player hits play. So this my vector is just a location within the 3D space. We set that in the header file, and in the main CPP file we put the set actor location to the vector we've just created to run when the game runs. So what we can do is we can put the coordinates in the vector that we've just created, and when we put the numbers in and hit play we can have it spawn right in front of the player. Now on its own it doesn't really do much, but this kind of forms a basis for creating the moving platforms, and we've got a nice piece of like repeatable code that we can use over and over again, and just edit the values of inside whenever we want to spawn stuff. So one of the things that you can do to, as an addition to spawning it in, is you can make it move as well. So in this example, every single game tick, the location of the spawn platform will be constantly increased on the Z axis. So when we start play, it'll do this. basically with that simple instruction you can use that as a base to kind of create a simple platformer. All you would need to do is put things like trigger points in, just so when the platform travels a certain distance it reverses direction. So in this case we just added more bits to the level, so we've got like a little platformer. You can also do rotations, so we've got some little rotational devices here, and you've got like a nice little push blocks. The rotational devices turns you around as well as the camera, so it kind of becomes disorientating if you stand on it. You've got to try and avoid these. And very simple game design stuff. It gets more difficult as the level increases. These platforms move a little bit faster. I completely missed the jump and fell on the floor, so now I have to start from the beginning again. So this was my second attempt. I actually managed to land on the platform this time. Thought it was going well. Managed to walk on there, but then I jumped a little bit too late and ended up falling again. This was the third attempt, got there a little bit too slow, so I had to wait for it to come back down again, but even then I mistimed my jump and missed it for the third time. Turns out I just suck at my own games as well. So after a few more play tests I decided that it wasn't me that was terrible, it was the level. So I went back in and edited the platform to go a little bit lower, making it easier to jump on. Perks of being a developer, I guess. Even with this easier platform, I still found a way to nearly mess it up. I nearly overshot the landing twice and was ready to just pack it up, but no, I did actually land on it. However, even after sticking the landing, it was all for naught. After jumping on the rotating platform, I completely forgot that I made this one rotate faster than the other ones, so I tried to time my jump and ended up flinging myself up nearly to my death. It was at this point I remembered that I didn't have to rely on my MLG Pro Gamer skills in order to beat this. I could just simply spawn past it. This is what is known as efficient playtesting, and I am a God King developer that should be hired immediately. It was then that I remembered that even if you manage to beat this legitimately, there is nothing up here that tells you that you've signified a win. The trials and tribulations that you've just experienced were completely meaningless, and no one will remember your accomplishments. So I put a silly little house at the end that when you cross the finish line it says you're a winner. GG.